Hello children and young people, welcome to the NLP for Kids video this month, which is all about anger. First things first, we're going to make it clear that anger is not necessarily a bad thing. It's very often used in negative situations, which makes it seem like a bad thing. But as is the case with all of your various different emotions, none of them are actually bad in themselves. It's just that sometimes we are perhaps using them in a way which is quite harmful to ourselves, and then it makes it seem as if that particular emotion is bad. Ultimately, every emotion has the opportunity to be helpful or useful for you in some way. Yep, even anger. There are times when it is important that you learn to get angry, that you get angry in certain situations. Think about it this way. If you had someone in your life who was constantly pushing their luck with you, taking the mickey out of you, or maybe even you're in a situation where someone really tries to overstep a boundary, like they try and steal something from you, getting angry is the right response, because if you were to just be really chilled and laid back about that kind of thing, it could cause people to think that you're a bit of a pushover, and then that could lead to all sorts of other much bigger problems. The challenge is keeping your anger under control at times when it flares up, or making sure that your anger doesn't start flaring up at times when it's really not supposed to be there whatsoever. Like anything, anger can become a habit. It can become an emotion that becomes a go-to whenever something doesn't work out in our favor, because we found that in the past that anger maybe gave us a little bit of drive to get what we wanted, or to speak up when we perhaps wouldn't have otherwise felt comfortable to do so. So anger can become a challenge for us if it becomes like a habit of going to anger and using anger as our emotional response too much of the time. What I want to talk to you about today is how you can start to use all of the energy from that anger for better things, because we're not going to get rid of anger from your life completely, for the reason that I said at the very beginning. We don't want to. It's important that you have anger there, but what's even more important is that you know how to use it, when to use it, and how to control it if it's getting a little bit too feisty and causing you some problems. So here's the benefit of anger from a sort of an emotional perspective. Anger has bag loads of energy in it. Imagine if you had something important that you needed to do, but you just didn't have the motivation to do it. There is no energy in being demotivated. If you've got an essay or something like that to do that you really don't want to get around to doing it, but you know you're going to have to, the word for that is procrastination. It's where you kind of sit around waiting for the feeling that drives you to doing it to show up. And sometimes it doesn't show up. You just kind of sit there going, well, maybe tomorrow. And that feeling to get you motivated never comes along. So in that feeling of procrastination, where you have no motivation, there is no energy. That's what holds you back. With anger, there is tons of energy in it. There's a lot of movement in anger. It's almost like an explosion of adrenaline when we get angry. So anger can be useful to us at times if we can apply those same sorts of emotions maybe to the things in our life that we're really flat and demotivated about. If you could get angry with yourself about the fact that you haven't got that essay done that you needed to do, then suddenly you can give yourself a wave of enthusiasm and energy to be able to get up and move and do something about it. The other way in which we can start to use our anger in a more positive way is by taking those situations where we're having an angry reaction and thinking about that energy as a message for us to do something positive. Now, the key thing is something positive. So that might take a little bit of evaluation in the moment to decide what that positive thing is going to be. But rather than using up that fuel by having an outburst, or maybe even behaving violently, if you could use that fuel and go, just take a minute to go, right, how can I use this fuel in the most positive way? How can I use this energy up in a really positive way? then you can start to turn your anger into like your motivation to be able to move forward in positive ways and to turn bad situations into better ones. If, however, you find turning your negative anger into a positive motivation, a positive energy for you to use, the really important thing to help you get on top of that anger so that it doesn't become a burden to you, so it doesn't become too problematic for you in the future, is that you start to take time to slow down and think before you take any action. Very often when we have a state of anger, because of that big burst of adrenaline, all of that energy coming in, we quickly want to disperse it and get rid of it, like we quickly want to use it up. And so that can cause us to say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, react the wrong way. And all of those then can end up making our anger really problematic for us. Those are the sorts of things that get you into trouble, right? So what we want to be able to do is to take a moment to make decisions about what we're going to do with all of that energy from the anger, rather than just reacting and using it up straight away. Now, in some ways it kind of annoys me that people say this, but there is some evidence that this is a useful thing to do. So you've probably heard people say, if you're an angry person, someone at some point in the past has said to you, just take a moment to count to 10. Like you're in that state and you're suddenly going to go 1, 2, 3. But the reason why they're saying that, and this is what annoys me about it, is people don't explain the reason why it's a useful thing to do. So for that reason, it just sounds like a stupid idea. But it's not. It is actually a good idea, but let me explain why, and then that might help you to feel more compelled to do it. The reason why stopping and counting to 10 is a good idea is not because it's going to make the anger go away, like you've got like built up fire in your belly, like that's not just going to vanish like this. But what it does do is it gives you that period of time to think about how you use it, so that you don't make a kind of spur of the moment bad decision. You don't have a reaction to what's going on and then regret that reaction later. Instead, you get a few moments to think about how you're going to use that energy in the right way. Now, taking that moment to stand there and count to 10, like counting to 10, might not be your thing, but maybe stepping away from whatever the situation is could be. Maybe you need to, I don't know, have a glass of water, a cup of tea, maybe. Maybe you need to write it down. That can really slow things down. Like on a personal level, writing stuff down really works very well for me because it makes me slow down my thinking. And sometimes we get angry because our thoughts are moving around our heads so fast. It's almost like we build up a whirlwind in there of crazy stuff, and then things start to seem bigger and scarier and more overwhelming than they really are. If you can take that time to stop or slow things down, write stuff out will force you to slow your thinking down, because all of those thoughts that are whizzing by, you'll need to kind of grab them and go, right, let me write about you first. Okay, now you, let's write about you. So it makes you stop and slow things down so that you can examine stuff properly before you make a decision about how to move forward with it and what it is that you should do next. So the key message from this video today is, don't beat yourself up about the fact that you get angry. You're supposed to get angry. It's an emotion. You're supposed to have that emotion in there. But what we do want to do is get better at managing it, making better decisions about how we use it when it shows up, and to start using the energy that it delivers to us in a useful way. Because what will start to happen then is that your feelings towards negative situations will begin to change. Instead of having that uncomfortable, angry response to things, your brain will start to learn, when something like that happens, I turn it into a good thing. So we can skip the bad feeling in the middle. We can just go straight to being thoughtful and creative and coming up with solutions to the problem without having to go angry in order to get there. So you'll get better. How rude. You'll get better at being able to manage those sorts of situations going forward without having to go to anger in order to get to the results and the creative thinking that you perhaps wanted to access. So I hope that's been useful for you today. If it has, go ahead and like this video. Comment down below with any tactics that you've developed around managing your anger. If you found a way to deal with it, write it in the box below. What has worked for you? If you're not already subscribed to the channel, then make sure you click the red subscribe button, click the bell so that you get notified the next time I upload a video, and head on over to all of our other social media channels so that we can speak to you there in the meantime. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.